Hi, Kevin. Long time no see.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so in the SUDS manual, there's an implication there that bioretention soils have a 20-year design life. I was just wondering what your opinion was on that, and I appreciate that it can be widely varied depending on application and pollutant loading, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, that's one of the biggest things to consider is like, no two streets are the same. We've seen streets where we have, an inordinate amount of silt washing off, and you have streets where there's really not much at all. That will hugely impact the lifespan. Silt being one of the biggest sort of threats to the soil. There's the kind of bioaccumulation or the kind of accumulation of pollutants thing, which I don't think we've fully got our heads around long term, the impact of that. But yeah, for our minds, certainly I think if you're working with what we would call sort of living soil approach, the sort of ecosystem approach, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have 20 years or more lifespan out of them. Um, I think, to my mind, the biggest risk is when you go down more engineered soils where it's more sand, grit based, focusing on hydraulic conductivity. That silt is going to go somewhere. So although it might go through that soil quickly, how long is that going to last? Because it's going to accumulate somewhere within that soil profile. So it might just take longer to silt up, but then almost if it's silting up from the bottom or midway down somewhere, it's harder to remediate that. And so you may end up in whatever time scale, 5 years, less, more, I don't know, depends on the scenario, but you might end up having the only option being to take the whole lot out and redo it. I'd much rather be managing the silt at the inlet or around the inlet and trying to keep an open soil by using nature's engineers to keep that silt management. Yeah. Oh, Pete, you're
Pete on
muted.
mute.
I've done it again. Mark, I hope that answered your question. Katie had a question for Kevin, also about soils.
Hi, Kev. Thank you so much. It was a really interesting talk. I was just wondering how you monitor the soils, or if you monitor the soils, and how much monitoring you have to do, and what sort of metrics you use.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see more monitoring. I mean, monitoring's not, it's expensive. So, yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be a lot more work done in this area. I mean, I think there are people exploring soils, and there's research being done. I think, sadly, maybe that's predominantly led by people that are trying to introduce new soils to the market. I don't think necessarily that's the research we need. We need an impartial look at a whole range of soil types, because there is no one soil type that's appropriate. It depends on what planting typology you want to deliver, all sorts of, considerations that might affect what soil you use. And what we want, what we really need is long-term research. We need to be, all of these installations, we need to be looking at them, monitoring them over time, maybe get soil scientists in to take samples, see where the silt is, look at the bioaccumulation of pollutants, to understand a lot more what's going on. And I think, we have continued conversations with the people in Portland and we share learning between, our experiences and their experience. And, interestingly, they've tweaked their soil specification recently. Partly that's around, you could call it monitoring. They've got thousands of them across the city, and they're seeing which ones the plants are starting to die off in because of climate change. And so that's their monitoring is, oh, look, our plants are starting to die and we're having to pay money to replace them. How do we solve that? And they're starting to look at, oh, let's do away with the under drain layer. Let's change the soil spec on ones where we do have under drain. So there's the kind of, there's the kind of, we do monitoring through practice, but as an industry, there should be more impartial analysis of these as they go in, research them all, understand the whole range, and again, different scenarios. South Wales would be totally different to Sheffield, to Nottingham, to London, so just because one thing did or didn't work in Cardiff or Swansea, you can't draw a conclusion from that alone. That's why we need this sort of almost UK-wide monitoring process.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. I noticed there's a student on the line saying how much she enjoyed your talk. Good PhD topic.
Yeah, we need loads of PhDs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that'd be brilliant. And if anybody does do any research, keep in touch with me, and I would love to have you do a presentation on your research. We had somebody who just identified as V. I don't know if they've come back under another name. Okay, well, I'll ask their questions because it's in the chat. So one of them, very pertinent, I think, which is, have you revisited some of these schemes to see the longer term performance after operation and management, operation and maintenance are handed to the client?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're probably, we're the suckers for that, really. When we talk about it being an art, it's for us, every project is it's an emotional thing as well. We are committed to that community, to the people that we're benefiting, and so they become our children. Every project becomes our children, really. So we kind of can't keep away from them, but also it's really important to have that learning from looking. We're still learning a lot. We've been doing this since the mid-90s, so we come at bioretention rain gardens with a lot of background SUDS knowledge and having researched what they've been doing in Portland and other parts of the States. So we come at it with their learning from decades of our learning around SUDS, but still we're learning on schemes because almost every project throws up something new. So for instance, Camley Street, the ones where we saw the people walking up and down the streets, beautiful planting there, but there's areas where the planting's totally failed. And that looks like it's the areas where the road is most steeply sloping. I mean, it's not ideal, about 1 in 13 in places. And so probably there's just not sufficient water getting off the highway. It's hard to get water to travel off a highway into a rain garden on a 1 in 13 slope. So it's probably about drought resilience. So there we're going to go back and look at, particularly now, after a drought summer, what is doing well in different parts of those rain gardens and what isn't. And then maybe focus on what we replant where, and then we take that learning onto future projects, particularly on steeply sloping sites. We've changed our practice around putting the drainage layer underneath, partly through that experiencing the increasing drought pressures on bioretention rain gardens. The things that kills plants in SUDS generally is not waterlogging unless it's designed badly or something's gone wrong. It's a drained environment. It's drought that will kill things off. Which is ironic considering we're dealing with water. We have this whole sort of approach and philosophy around connecting topsoils to subsoils, and we've seen that be incredibly successful in some SUD schemes like Bridget Joy Square in White City, where after a drought summer, the miscanthus grasses that the kids are playing through, they're about 6 foot high. There's no sign of any drought stress at all in that landscape because 50% of the rain that lands on that entire landscape goes into the soil. It's taken up by plants, but then a good proportion of it rehydrates those clay subsoils, those London clay subsoils, and then that's drawn back because we have topsoil on top of that subsoil. It's drawn back through the summer months. We have this battery of moisture within the environment that we've created. With bioretention, what we're starting to do now is really try and minimize that drainage layer at the bottom. We have to drain through bioretention, so we need some kind of drainage at the bottom, but we tend now just to do a trench or a strip within them and maximize topsoil to subsoil. And that's through learning, from experiencing schemes and seeing that increase in drought stress. So we're still changing. That's really, really important to note. You don't get everything right all of the time, and there is still a lot we can learn. And anyone can learn. I think what's frustrating is when we see some very basic mistakes time and time again. I mean, I would say 9 times out of 10, the images we see on social media of people installing rain gardens, any one of our team can take one glance at those photos and start seeing really basic errors. And I think those are the ones we shouldn't be making really basic errors and learning from those. We should be beyond that. We should be finessing and developing ideas, not learning that, hey, if you put a flush curve next to a shot, someone's going to park there, and if I put my overflow at soil level, I'm basically not doing anything. The water's just going straight down into the sewer. We shouldn't be making those basic mistakes, but it is still an area where there's a lot of learning to be done, and we will continue to evolve, I'm sure, for a decade at least to come.
Brilliant. Penny Griffith has a question.
I
Hi,
do,
Penny.
yes. I'm before I ask my question, I'm just going to say that Kevin's team, Helen, recently designed, and we've just installed a bioretention rain garden in Burrows Road in Swansea in the Sandfield. So if anybody is in that area and would like to come and see what one looks like in 3D, please do come along and have a look, or get in touch with me. I'll be happy to meet you there and have a look. And interesting what you're saying about the clay soils, Kevin, because obviously ours is on sand because it's so close to Swansea Bay, so that water's going to really filter through. So I guess that's like the other side of what happens, the underneath. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Also, they're totally your babies. Every time it rains, I want to rush down and see how full it's got and how it's operating. It's really funny. But anyway, to my question, one of the things that I've noticed is there can be a contention between drainage experts around the use of trees and sud solutions. Quite a lot of concern about how you access services, how you deal with root systems, particularly might they invade, the drainage system you're putting in. I think particularly maybe with the solutions where you've got the long perforated pipe sitting directly underneath the suds rain garden. And I was just wondering, maybe what your views are on that, but also, are there any papers or publications you're aware of that we can share with colleagues to help them understand why this might be a problem or not a problem, or what you can do in a rain garden to make sure it's not a problem?
First, I'm not aware of publications that support that. No. I mean, yeah, trees and suds generally works quite well. Even trees and permeable paving, interestingly, works quite well. That's probably a topic for another day. Yeah, obviously with trees involved, there's a couple of considerations. One, we need to make sure we've got enough volume to support a tree into its whatever its long lifespan is. So putting something in a tiny little hole is no longer considered acceptable practice. And even a bioretention rain garden might not actually have that much soil volume in quite a lot of the time. So when we do introduce trees to rain gardens, we're considering what's the opportunities for that tree to exploit soil beyond just the rain garden profile. So quite often we'll include, in fact, I showed that example right near the end of a rain garden in White City. You might have noticed on that one, there's actually permeable paving adjacent to that. And that is a structural tree pit which continues beyond the footprint of the bioretention rain garden to create 20 to 30 cubic meters of growing space for that tree, so it can live a full life and give all the benefits that it can give to the local community. So quite often when we introduce trees, we will expand beneath underground, we'll almost expand the bioretention rain garden underneath adjacent paving to create space for the tree. One of the arguments is that the more generous you are with creating soil space for a tree, then the less likely it is to try and exploit other opportunities. I wouldn't be concerned about a perforated pipe because basically roots don't like going where there's air. We call it air pruning. In fact, perforated pipe is very much like a type of tree pot which has loads of holes around it, which discourages roots from sort of wrapping around the, and you pull a plant out of the pot, and you've got all the kind of roots around the inside of the pot. It sort of discourages that. So roots don't like going where there's air. Perforated pipe will be just like that. So I wouldn't expect to see much growth of roots into a perforated pipe because it's basically going to be air in there, which is why permeable paving works very well with trees. In terms of other services, then we are careful. What we might do is selectively put a root barrier, potentially 500, 600 mil root barrier around the edge of features. So on White City, we did that where there was some high voltage cables running through the kind of main basin on Bridget Joyce Square, and some other sort of sensitive utilities. So we put a kind of root barrier around the edge of the basin to protect those, so sort of stop it going laterally into sensitive sort of utilities, but without lining the whole thing, so that we're kind of still getting contact with sort of subsoils, still allowing infiltration. So yes, we might protect if there's an individual vulnerable utility. We might protect that either by wrapping it or selective root barriers, but yeah, by and large, a lot of utilities, it's not a problem, and the benefits of putting trees in is so huge in terms of the extra, the huge amounts of volume losses that they deliver, and the benefits obviously to local people and wildlife.
Brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully
Thanks. Thanks for that. Well, we're running out of time, and
yeah.
there's 2 questions.
I'm happy to stay on a bit longer, by the way. So
That's
do enjoy the chat. So if anyone has got time, I'm happy to hang on.
Right. Well, Jane Clark has got a question. Jane, I wonder if you could unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi there. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for a really interesting talk. No, it wasn't. It was just about how to educate the public in the land habitat change. You know, that about maybe do you use little tiny discrete signs when you put your rain gardens in without sort of taking away from the vista of the planting. Is that something you do? Because it is quite an issue, isn't it, to help with sort of vandalism and just to help the people know why you've changed it.
Sorry, the sound quality wasn't brilliant. What's the main gist of the question?
It's really no, it was just a comment really, just about do you use little notices?
Oh, I see. Yeah, so kind of interpretation.
Yes, interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes yes, it's nice to. I mean, obviously, it's generally more budget. We tend to favour visual clues and cues over kind of information board style interpretation. They both have their place, but I think to me more powerful is little visual cues. So we've got examples where we have timber posts that have maybe raindrops routed into them, or little messages about manages rain, or removes pollution from runoff, kind of sort of little things, or even sculptures and making water visible. So things that almost like passive interpretation, things you notice as you're walking past that make you realize that this is managing water, or it's doing a job of pollution, or you've got little sculptures of butterflies or whatever, and people realize you're kind of creating habitat. I think those are kind of really, really powerful, the sort of passive interpretation. Not that many people stop and look at a notice board. They have their place, and if the budget allows, then we also do those. And I think it is really important that people understand why they're there. I think if you want as many people as possible to understand why it's there, then yes, make it something that they want to be interested in. So it's a desirable thing. And then I think those little cues that draw people's attention to these landscapes being a bit different, I think are really powerful.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
And last but not least, Lewis Hilton had a question for you. Lewis, if you're still here, if you could unmute.
Oh yeah. When you were saying before that you tend to spend the day talking about rain gardens. Is that a training session? Or is that just?
Is that what? Sorry.
Is that training? Is that like certified?
Oh yeah. So we've got a series of what we call SUDS masterclasses. So we're trying to break down, because it is a massive subject. We deliver the 2-day Syria design course, and really that you can't really cover anything at all in 2 days when it comes to SUDS. It's one of those disciplines where a bit like people saying up front, it looks really easy, and I think to our mind as designers, that is the art of good design. So many good, well-designed products, you don't realize just how much effort has gone into them. They just work, and you use them and you don't notice. And that's, a successful landscape most of the time, you don't realize how much hard work has gone into it. And I think that's the same with SUDS. It kind of belies really the complexity. What was I going to say? God, I've lost my track. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
the masterclasses.
So we could provide like a link or.
Yeah. Well, you could look on our website. I think we've got a page on there. The website needs updating, but there's a page on our website, robertbrayassociates.co.uk, which has sort of masterclasses. But yeah, we realize you need to break it down. Really, so we have a day focusing on biodiversity, a day focusing on bioretention rain gardens. We're going to do one about volumetrics and modeling. We've got one just looking at how to design integrated SUDS. Really, it's that level of complexity. Like I said, bioretention rain garden, we could literally spend 2 days on it. It is just that looking at one SUDS feature. It is a more complex one than the average, but It really does feel like it needs breaking down in that way. So yeah, we're kind of a bit fed up with the way SUDS is in the UK at the moment, and so felt, I mean, it's an opportunity for us, obviously, but yeah, we really want to up the game in terms of knowledge in the UK, because in the last 10 years we've hardly moved. The needle has hardly moved, and it's going to be the same in another 10 years' time. We're going to still end up with the majority of pipe to pond systems, people happy if they've got a swale, polluted basins, basins in housing schemes that people would never want to spend any time and take their family down into a hole and have a picnic, that developers point at and say, I could have put 10 more houses there. You know, for us, it's like, you know, okay, enough's enough. Like we need, you know, yeah, we need to up the game of SUDS in the UK. So yeah, that's why we introduced the masterclasses. So yeah, feel free to come along. Love to have you along.
Wow, Kevin, I hope you get a lot of takers for your masterclasses, particularly from Wales, because you know we've got some good examples here, but yeah, we need to make this standard. I promised that I'd tell people about what's going to happen to the Wales Green Infrastructure Forum when after my likely departure from Natural Resources Wales in early next year. But first of all, I just want to say a massive thanks to you, Kevin. This has been one of the best attended webinars that we've had. There's a massive degree of interest in rain gardens, and you've done exactly what it says on the tin. You've given us a great introduction, and I hope as a result of this, people are intelligently specifying and intelligently commissioning rain gardens in Wales in the future. Thank you so much.
No worries. No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me along. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you once again. And like I said, I promised that I'd tell people what's going on with the Green Infrastructure Forum. And well, like all public services, Natural Resources Wales has been badly affected by these austerity measures that have been implemented by successive UK governments since 2010. So at the end of July, NRW launched a consultation with our trade unions and staff only, on how they propose to reduce their staff budget by £13 million from the 1st of April 2025. And NRW said in that consultation they want to refocus resources on the activities that will have the most impact on nature, climate, and minimising pollution, as well as the statutory work that only NRW can do. And they said they wanted to mitigate job losses as much as possible. As part of their proposals, NRW said they plan to stop the Green Infrastructure Programme, and my post is to be removed from the staff structure. Now, this came as a complete shock to me, but after over 30 years of service, I should be due a redundancy settlement, which will enable me to have a risk-free return to private consultancy. So I'm actually feeling very excited and energized by this opportunity. And it might be one of the best things that's ever happened to me. NRW's consultation has only just finished, and they'll be deliberating on the results until mid-October, when they'll present their final plans to our board. Now, a lot could change, but if things go as I hope, then I'll restart my private consultancy early in 2025. The Wales Green Infrastructure Forum has been a massive part of my life since I started it in the early days of NRW, and I want to see it continue. So I plan to support the email exchange network and the webinars pro bono when I return to business. I hope that'll be a great way to keep in contact with all of the great friends and colleagues I've met over the years, as well as being a fantastic way to keep up with the latest developments in green infrastructure across Wales, across the UK, and across the wider world. Things, including NRW's proposals, could change radically, but I hope the Green Infrastructure Forum will continue and will only change for the better. So,
can I just say, Pete, I'm really, really chuffed that you are continuing to run it. I'm really grateful, because I've found so many things so useful in the 4 years that I've been using the forum. So thank you very, very much. And whatever guise it's in, it's been amazing for the last 4 years. And I look forward to where it goes next.
Cheers. Thanks, Penny. And thanks for the offer that you put in the chat to share your experiences of putting in Swansea's first bioretention rain garden. So hopefully I'm going to pop down to Swansea before I leave NRW and have a look around some of the groundbreaking stuff you've been doing.
Pete, can I just come in and echo what Penny said?
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah, no, it's just been, I'm just so, I can't believe that NRW are so short-sighted to think that this is something that they can cut, because it's been invaluable. Just the number of people, the experience, the knowledge that's been shared, and the work that you've done is just, yeah, I mean, it's just been really helpful. So yeah, it'd be great if somebody can carry it on, whether it's you or somebody else, but just it shouldn't be let to just disappear. Definitely not.
It certainly won't be. I'll be doing my level best to keep it going for as long as I'm alive and kicking. So thanks. I'm going to close it here, because we've kept, time is money for Kevin, as I'm starting to remember from my own days when I was working for myself. So we've got to let Kevin go. I'll let him go with another massive thanks, and a massive thanks to everybody that turned up for this webinar. And I'll see you at the next one. Goodbye for now, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your questions.
Bye. Thanks.